Cardinals back at Busch Stadium tonight. We're going to preview it all right here on Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar. Joe Roderick, Ryan Fagan with you here on a Friday here on Sports Hub STL. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Mets in town for a 3-game series this weekend, Ryan. And as you and I were talking about before we went on the air, this is a fun little test for the Cardinals and all of the issues that we saw to this team in April.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a team that they're seeing for a second time, right? And the series in New York didn't go so well, but it wasn't like, I mean, it was a complete disaster in terms of wins and losses, right? And it was a disaster in the way that a lot of things went wrong, but they didn't lose every game by 10 runs. The bullpen just didn't come through.
No,
and
the
one hitters were
extra inning game was one extra inning game, right?
Yeah, and the hitters were stymied a bit. But they played well overall against a team that has been very, very good. And I think, the one thing, a lot has been made of the struggles on the road, and it has been bad. There's no way to sugarcoat that at all. If you're going to be bad on the road, you need to be good at home.
Yeah.
And so far they have 10-5, and they took 2 or 3 against the Phillies. They took 2 or 3 against the Astros. They swept the Twins. They've played very well at home against some pretty good teams. And, I think the Mets are a good challenge, a team that they've seen now that is playing very good baseball and is coming to St. Louis. So let's see, how they do. I think that's why when we talk about it being a test, it's a chance for them to show we're not as bad as we were on the road, and here's a good team. Let's try to prove that here.
And yeah, I mean, from it is going to be, you lost all 4 games, a 4-game sweep in Queens at Citi Field. So you come back to this, and let's just say Cardinals take 2 out of 3 in this. They play good baseball this weekend, and we'll get into some of the numbers later on in the show, because there are a lot of things to look at from the first month of the season, from the end of March and all of April, that we can dive into. We did it a little bit yesterday. Matt Rocky and I did it a little bit yesterday, but I know it was an early show. It was a quick show. Before that, we have a little more time to kind of talk it all out today. And I know you have some numbers too to look over with this, but let's just say they take 2 out of 3 this weekend. After losing 4 on the road, and after talking at length in this first 5 weeks of the season about how bad they've been on the road, what do you do with that? Like, what do you, and I'm trying to think of that too. Like, what do you do with that if you look and you go, okay, this is a team that is just, it is Jekyll and Hyde on home and road.
Well, I think there's a couple things. The first thing you do is you remember kind of what the goal is for this season, right? The quote unquote goal, even though there's this stated goal and there have been different actions by the front office that contradict a little bit what they're trying to do. But I think what you want to see is from the young guys, right? Like, how do they play? And I think it's part of it. Because yes, you don't want to struggle on the road the way a lot of them have, but Mason Wynn's hitting the ball better, and can they keep up what they're doing well? Can Jordan Walker kind of bounce back from, what's been a rough couple of weeks for him? So you try to keep things in perspective. And I think the thing that's, frustrating for Cardinals fans is you look at the team and you see just the bullpen. Yeah. And if the bullpen was better, I think we talked about this last week, 3 games better. How many games can be tagged with bullpen? More than 3 games.
They have blown 7 saves this year. I believe it's more. So I think if you look at it, and I don't know because I was looking at one stat a few weeks ago that was blown leads, and then yesterday I was looking at blown saves. I don't know if those are the same or if they're kind of categorized differently in that. But pretty much it's 7 or 8 games this year have been blown saves,
and
blown
games
leads
that have been.
You can look. Yeah, Saturday last week. That was a blown save by Ryan Helsley.
Yeah,
when he gave it the home run, but they still won it the next inning. Right. Blown leads, I think blown leads are at about 7. Yes,
yeah, because that's how many closers have end the year with like 8 wins because they had 7 blown saves and they come back but I think the point being is, like, you want to see the bounce back. You want to see how they respond, and I think it's going to be interesting because this is, like I said, this is a good Mets team. But the point, what we're talking about, like all these games, because it's the blown leads, blown saves, it's the close games that were tied and then got away from them in a way that they couldn't come back and win.
So basically what they did, what they did to the Reds on the first game, the first game where it was 1-0, and then all of a sudden, boom, 6. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff. So, I mean, you flip 3 games and they go from 14-18 to 17-15. And then I think, so coming back to the point, I think that's what's frustrating for Cardinals fans is you can see the potential for this team to be solid.
Yes.
Not contender. I mean, the Cubs are better than I think anyone thought they were going to be. This division is
a contender in the wild card, though. If you look at the standings,
but the wild card, I mean, you look out west, and you look at the East, and you look at like the Phillies behind the Mets. You look at the Diamondbacks and the Padres, and I think it might be time to take the Giants seriously as a wild card team. It's going to be tough. This isn't going to be one of those years, I don't think, where if you're 2 games over 500, you're in the wild card chase in mid-September.
So you're just saying of the 7 blow leads, how many games are you flipping? Like, what are we?
Let's just flip 3.
If you flip 3, they are 17-15, which is the current record of Cincinnati. Cincinnati a half game out of the wild card right now.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're 3.5 games out of the wild card.
That's what's frustrating, I think, is they with a little bit of foresight and not just nothing in the offseason from the front office, they could potentially, even if it's 1 game, 2 games. Yeah. I think that's what's frustrating. I think, so we can talk about all these other things, what you want to see, but it still comes back to that. I know we harp on that every time I'm here, but I get it.
I would like to have that kind of idea, like, and maybe the team does too, because maybe there's something you can actually look at, dive deep in the numbers and figure it out. Schedule makers do them no favors, though, with this, because you look at what happened recently. Last weekend, they were home for the weekend. There was a 3-game, 1-team homestand. Boom, you're right back on the road in Cincinnati. After so you look at that you flip-flop that. So they get 2 series at home, Mets and Pirates at home, this homestand, and then you're out for 10 days again. Then you're out on the road for 10 days. The schedule makers have done them no favors for that. And no way could you have known how bad the team was going to be on the road. But you look at that and it's just like, God, when are we going to get a break in the schedule here too?
Yeah, you look at it. I mean, I'm just looking at it now. They don't have a home set with 3 series in a row, which you never get more than 3, but you like 3 until June.
Yeah.
Until early June, because you got the
Those
Royals
aren't that common,
and then the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. But you're right, it has been. And the 3-game homestands, especially when you're struggling the way they are on the road, feel like you blink and it's gone.
Yeah. No, and that's one you could look at and you could just, I mean, things can get away in a hurry. And you look at what you do have coming up, and we talked about this being a test this week and a team that you struggled with on the road. Now you get it home. That's the same thing with the Pirates. You lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates. You get Skeens again in that series too for that. And then you go on the road and you have the same thing with the Phillies, a team that you won the series from at home, and then you get them again at on the road.
And I think that's going to be tested when we talk about how do the young guys respond the second time you see a Skeens. I mean, they obviously had success against Skeens the first time around. Does Skeens adjust? Do the Cardinals adjust? How does that one go? And I think that's kind of when you look through the season and you're trying to assess where these guys are. And again, that's small sample sizes, right? The Cardinals have said they're going to look at the big thing and the 450, 500, 600 at bats for some of these guys. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Ray points out schedule makers gave the Cardinals already 2 series of 4-game sets on the road already this year. It is brutal.
That's tough.
I don't know. I mean, I would love, you've talked to a lot more players in your career than I ever have. When it comes to that, though, you are staying in the same spot though for an extended time. I'd much rather have that than I don't think 2-game series are a thing anymore, but you remember that back in the day when you have the 2-game series, that's you're in and out and boom. 4-game series hotel, at 4 games, at least you're in there. Like at least you're settled in for a couple days.
Yeah.
Maybe bring the family or something too. And you have a couple.
I think a lot of times, the families will look at it and say, okay, we're here. Do we want to be in this city for 4 days? And I think that's kind of a determining factor. But yeah, I mean, you talked, and because I have asked a lot of guys about the home versus away thing, and some of them like being away, some of them like being free from the everyday distractions of being at home. And that's not like a family thing necessarily, but just you have more demands on your time when you're in town. Some of them might be, but you have more demands on your time when you're in town. But a lot of them just like being at home, and I think that's so far that's worked for the Cardinals, because it's not like they've played bad teams at home, right? It's not like the teams that they played at home they haven't played the Rockies 15 times at home. They've played some good teams at home and played very well against them. And I think, when you hear Ollie Marmol talk about sometimes it's just baseball and you lose games, I think that's probably kind of where he's coming from, is he's seen his team play very well against good teams and consistently taken 2 out of 3 from some of these squads. And it's funny, like the one team that they've lost a series at home against was the Angels, which is probably the worst team they played. Now 2 of those obviously were in extra innings, but the worst team they played at home, they lost 2 or 3, and the other ones they won 2 out of 3.
Yeah, the Astros and the Phillies are 2 good teams. Brewers are a good team. So it just it adds to so much frustration as this young season has gone on. Mets in town this weekend. Get into that here in just a bit. Before we do that, though, Graybar, they are the who powers Cards Hub 365 each and every day, 365 days a year here on Sports Hub STL. And if you're suffering from supply chain issues and they're disrupting your operations, have no fear, because Graybar has you covered, and you can rely on their nationwide logistics network to get what you need, where they need, when they need to get there, all within budget. Graybar is a leading and trusted North American distributor of electrical communications, data networking, and industrial products. Visit graybar.com to start an order today. That's graybar.com, and fix those supply chain issues with Graybar, your distributor for electrical and data comm needs. Joe Roderick and Ryan Fagan with you here. Cardinals and Mets, as we mentioned. I don't know if the lineups have come out yet. Was going to just click on that and see if those were ready to go for May 2nd. Ollie's done a really good job this year of getting those lineups out early. I do appreciate that, but we don't have them yet today. Clay Holmes and Sonny Gray on the mound, and as somebody pointed out in the chat, and feel free to join along here in the YouTube chat, questions, comments, or just a regular conversation amongst all of you. Looking at the Mets roster, better than the Cardinals man for man at almost every position, saying the Cardinals might have them at 1 or 2 of those. The Mets are good. The Mets are built for a World Series this year. The Mets have 3 of the most exciting players in all of baseball on their roster in Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, and Francisco Lindor, to where if you are looking, those are 3 guys that on their own would be the faces of a franchise, and they have 3 of those right there hitting at the top 4 in their lineup.
When it seems like Alonso was really on kind of a mission to prove that he was mistreated in the offseason. I mean, he came into that offseason expecting like a massive contract, even though his numbers were down last year, and this kind of on base and OPS have trended down lately. I mean, you look at his numbers here. He's got a 475 on base percentage, an OPS plus 220, 7 homers, 28 RBIs, 11 doubles, leading the league. I mean, this guy, when he's motivated, we're basically seeing home run derby Pete Alonso in the lineup every day. I mean, it's really been impressive to watch, and I think he's in there along with, like you said, Soto and Lindor. I mean, that's a heck of a trio. And I know some of their other guys have struggled. Mark Vientos, he had a great year last year. He's been okay. He's come on a little bit as of late. Brandon Nimmo hasn't been his typical self. Jesse Winker hasn't been kind of the magic guy that he was when he played with them last year. So it's as good as they've been, they're not playing peak Mets baseball. And Juan Soto hit the home run the other night, and that was it had been a minute. I mean, his numbers are okay. But he's been a slow starter traditionally in his career. And I think you look at what they can be, and I mean, they probably are position by position. They're going to win a lot of those battles.
2 home runs for Soto yesterday. The first 2 that he hit at home, right? This year went 2 for 3 in the game. And as Claibs and I kind of looked at that yesterday when we were doing the post game show, yesterday afternoon, and that's a guy you do not want coming in at the beginning of a hot streak, coming into a weekend series.
No, you want to try to minimize that. I mean,
yeah.
But you look at that rotation. I mean, they've got 5 starters who made 6 starts each, so they haven't had any issues in the rotation so far. The worst ERA is David Peterson at a hair over 3.
Yeah,
and it's not just like those are flukes, because you look at like the fielding independent pitching, right, which takes us some of the luck out of it, and the numbers are still really good. Holmes with a 2.18 FIP. Griffin Canning has been the worst at 3.25 is a fielding independent pitching that pretty much every non-ace in the sport would be thrilled with, right? A 3.25 FIP gets you in the conversation for the Cy Young Award sometimes, but at least on the fringes of it. So yeah, I mean, they've been fantastic, and it's funny because that was the biggest question mark about the Mets coming into the year was, did they have the pitching to do that? And they're going to throw out Clay Holmes and McGill in these at least the first 2 games. They don't have the starter announced, I don't think, for the 3rd game on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, they've been fantastic.
You look at the Cardinals this year, and you look at some of the numbers that they have kind of put out there in that first month of the season, and we've talked about, okay, 4 games under 500 right now, 14-18 on the year. A lot of it, when you look at some of these numbers, just doesn't make sense. If you were to just give the positive side of things, if you were to just say, this is a top 5 offense in baseball, top 8 offense in baseball right now, with, I think they're 3rd in average. I have the numbers here. They are 3rd in average, 8th in OPS, 1st in doubles. Just some of the things to look at. I think you could easily say top 8 offense in baseball overall,
especially at Busch Stadium.
Yes. The defensively least amount of errors in all of baseball this year.
That's what you want.
You look at the starting pitchers, as you mentioned with the Mets, you look at some of the starting numbers for the Cardinal starters this year, and none of them have missed a start.
Yeah.
This season, you have a 6-man rotation. You have a 6th starter that has made 3 starts for Mats now, 2 or 3 starts. But if you include Matt's numbers in the rest of them, that's a really good starting rotation. That is top 12, top 10 in baseball, the starters for the Cardinals this year. And you look at all that and you go, how is this team 4 games under 500? And it goes back to what we talked about with the blown saves, the blown leads, and a bullpen that is it's just been frustrating as hell.
Good.
No.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to depth, because look, I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times. Like, you're never going to have a bullpen unit where every single guy is as good one year to the next. There's always going to be fluctuations. So what you do when you're a contending team, you build in sort of reserve, you build in depth, you sign guys on flyers in the offseason and put them in AAA and say, okay, well, you're going to be ready to go because something's going to happen. And they just didn't do that this offseason. And look, if you're going to do what the Cubs did or the Astros did and lose games to save payroll and save money and get high draft picks, that's one thing. But they weren't doing that because they didn't trade Fetty, they didn't trade Helsley, so they kept those pieces, but they didn't add the little things. They didn't sign. Like, how much different could this season be if they had signed taken flyers on 3 relievers, right, 4 relievers?
You look at some of the relievers that are out there. Yeah, you look at some of the relievers that are out there that signed with their teams for around what Phil Maton signed for.
Yeah,
and again, cool, they're cutting back. Cool, they're not. They weren't in the Pete Alonso sweepstakes
right
this offseason. They weren't going after. They didn't have meetings with Soto this offseason. Okay, we know they weren't going after those level of contracts. But 1-year deals, less than $5 million, that's not doing anything to the bottom line of this organization.
And it's smart too, because you're either going to get contributions and then potentially trade them away at the All-Star break, package a couple to a contender, or they stink.
Which we did that. Yeah, Brendan Schaefer and I did that with the Phil Maton signing. We kind of looked at that. We did the 4-box graph of the 4 possible results of what could be, whether the pitcher's good or the team's good, pitcher's bad, team's bad, things like that, and what the end result would be for that. And more so with that, let's just play, put this idea out there, because I've seen many other shows here on Sports Hub STL go out there with the idea of, what do you do, what is the right time to trade Ryan Helsley type of situation? Do you do it when he's on fire right now? Do you wait till the trade deadline? Like, when do you get the most back for trading Ryan Helsley? That's not the discussion I'm asking about here. What I'm asking about is, who closes games for you when Ryan Helsley goes? To put yourself in a position to where you can still go out there and be a competitive baseball team that's not going out there and going, oh, ninth inning, I don't know how we're going to get these final 3 outs. We're leading the game for once. Pick a name out of a hat type thing. Who is your closer in waiting? Because if you are going to have this runway, if you are going to put together this new young organization, like, who is the first closer going to be of the Chaim Bloom era?
I mean, I'm not sure that Graceffo was throwing 97, 98 his last time out,
but he's starting. Like, he's
starting, but he's not starting when he's been here,
right?
He's pitched a couple games out of relief. Let's see what he does. If that's the position you feel like is important because you're going to trade Helsley at some point, then you have to consider that, because there's not a whole lot of other options. Otherwise, it just becomes matchups, like fully matchups. And it can't be matchups like it used to be, obviously, with the 3 batter minimums. You can't just throw lefties there, right? Throw a lefty out there for the first leadoff batter if he's lefty. You got to adjust to that. But, and again, that's when we talk about why it was so important to try to build some depth in the offseason, and why the failure to do that for no good reason other than saving a couple of $1 million for an organization that's worth billions is, it's frustrating.
By the way, speaking of possible arms, I believe you and I talked about this name a little bit last week. I know I did with a few other shows, the Tristan McKenzie.
Yeah.
News on him yesterday. He accepted an outright assignment to AAA Columbus. But instead of going there right away, he's going to go to the Arizona complex for the Guardians and work out a little bit there. So they're going to run him through some tests and see.
I think, going on
there, but he is going to stay with the organization,
and I have a chance to stay with that organization, and there are worse things to do, right?
Right.
They've got a good track record of fixing pitchers. They've had a lot of success. A lot of what they've accomplished over the years has been because they've fixed guys, or they've put guys in position to succeed. And Cleveland is an organization that has guys seemingly come out of nowhere and be dynamic in the bullpen and be better than expected. Cade Smith last year, he was, as a rookie, people thought, okay, this guy could be okay, but he was dynamite. He was dynamic. And if I'm McKenzie, you could be, at this point, you're not going to get any massive upgrade pay raises. It makes sense that he would choose that.
Lots of sports going on tonight in St. Louis. Lots of sports overall. It's a great TV watching night and weekend. So you could sit there with your DraftKings Pick 6 app and look at some of those basketball games that are on there, playoff hockey we know happening tonight in St. Louis, or baseball from all around MLB on a fun Friday night filled with games. And with baseball season being underway, look at DraftKings Pick 6. It is your fastball down the middle and the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just to choose 2 or more players and select if they will have more or less of a stat. You could do so with baseball. You could pick 2 or 3 players and do it with that. You go to NBA, you pick 2 or 3 players with that, with the NBA games that are on the schedule for this weekend. Same with the NHL. Pick 6 available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Missouri. You can cash in on your baseball knowledge, your hockey knowledge, your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. You could go and look at somebody like a Ryan Mountcastle, who's playing tonight against Michael Wacha. 10 for 22 in his career for against Michael Wacha is Ryan Mountcastle. 3 of those 10 hits have left the yard. So That's good enough for an OBP of about 1,300 for Ryan Mountcastle against Michael Waka.
Solid.
Yeah, give you that little tip for a possible play on DraftKings Pick 6. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So Cardinals and Mets start at 7:15 tonight. If you're flipping around or you're just watching your phone with the game, Lars Nootbaar has had a really, really good start to this season. A guy that I was adamantly against. Very
I
much
wasn't
so.
even going to bring that up. I thought it, but I wasn't going to bring it up.
I was very far. I mean, Brooke Grimsley, I think, is the president of the Lars Nootbaar fan club. At the start of the year, I could not have been. We could not have been on more polar opposites with our thoughts on Lars Nootbaar, but he has come out and started the season quite well as a leadoff hitter for the Cardinals.
And especially at home. I mean, I'm looking at some of his home numbers here. I mean, 15 games, 15 walks, 13 runs, 12 RBIs, 10 strikeouts. You know, that's one of those things. 5 more walks than strikeouts is amazing. On base percentage of .543. I mean, he's always kind of felt like a guy who feeds off energy, right? Positive energy. I mean, we saw what he did when he was playing with Team Japan in the World Baseball Classic. Not that the crowds have been fantastic to give them energy, but the people who have been there have done a good job of that. But, he's been fantastic. Arenado's been good at home. Brendan Donovan has been good at home. And I think when you look at like the splits, I mean, we're looking at it here, a home OPS of 809, road OPS of 657. Now there's always going to be a split. That's pretty significant, and they've stolen more bases at home. One thing, we haven't really talked about, but like the Cardinals have done a good job picking their spots, stealing bases, being smart on the base paths so far. I mean, 25 stolen bases, 6 caught stealings. That's not bad.
10 of those steals are Victor Scott, I believe. 10 or 11.
I think he's got,
okay.
But it's being smart, and obviously for Victor Scott, being smart is literally every time you get on base, just pick your pitch and go. I think we've seen and talked about how he's become so much of a student of the game, and I think a lot of that is just knowing when and working to get the best first jump and reading moves and stuff like that. And then you look at the pitching staff. I mean, a home ERA of 2.93 and a road ERA of 5.44. That's a big gap. And again, a 2.93 against the teams that they've played at home, like that's you'll take that. And again, the Mets, we'll see what that home ERA looks like after 3 games with Alonso and a seemingly resurgent Juan Soto and Lindor in there. But I mean, if they want to show that they're better than that road record and then can beat teams, I mean, that's you at some point you're going to have to win those games on the road, but you have to win the ones here to try to get that confidence, I guess, to go out and do that.
Right. Yeah. Then it'll all start tonight. Sonny Gray on the mound, a 3-0 record for Sonny Gray on the season, 3.60 ERA. So Sonny has those aren't number one starter numbers that he's put up so far this year, but I think across the board, if you had to look at the, let's say, 6 starters right now, is this what, turn number 7 through the rotation that they're all making?
Yeah, starting it. Yeah.
Okay. Who, if in the hypothetical wild card playoff game, who would be your number 1 starter based on performance so far this year for the Cardinals?
Unless it's a left-handed heavy lineup, in which case you might go with Liberatore. It's Sonny Gray.
Okay. So you're saying like Phillies. You're facing the Phillies. You're going Liberatore. Yeah.
And even then, I might still go Sonny Gray.
Right.
because he's the guy.
Okay.
Like,
I was saying based on what I was asking was based on performance.
But based on performance, I mean, it's not like a 3.6 ERA is bad.
No,
right? He's not doing what he did in spring training.
But there's nothing that you've seen out of any of the others this year. I mean, outside of Lipitor, like Lipitor is, I think, the exception to where you look at Lipitor and you've gone, okay, like this is a guy who has taken this opportunity to be a starting pitcher and stepped up. Yeah, he is
fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, because when you talk about earlier the fielding independent pitching, kind of taking some of the luck element of it to an extent. Lipitor is a 2.33. I mean, that's a really good FIP. And Sonny Gray is his ERA, his fielding independent pitching is right about where his ERA is. There's not a big gap there. Some of the guys, there's a bigger gap. One guy who I'm looking at it surprises me a little bit. His FIP is much better than his ERA. Is Miles Michaelis. His FIP is under 3. A sub 3 FIP is a really good number. And
did you read Brendan Ard's article? Did you read
I saw it. I've not read it. No.
he's gotten a lot of fun feedback on that.
Nice.
People arguing with him over him just pointing out facts about Miles Michaelis. Just saying, hey, Miles Michaelis is pitching really well, and
he has been really good
getting
after
mad at him for it, and he knew exactly what he was doing when he published that.
Smart dude. Create some conversation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, credit to where credit's due. He's been much better his last couple outings. It looked like it was going to develop into a scenario where you could tell if the Cardinals were raising the white flag completely as if he was still in the rotation in June and July, right? But he's turned it around. He's been good. Like there is a way for him to be an effective pitcher, and it's staying out of the middle of the zone. It's getting ahead, making batters react to what he's done. And when he's been at his best, he's done that. But he's had to learn how to adjust to, it's not like he was throwing 102 miles an hour, had to learn to adjust to 98, right? He had to learn to adjust at a velocity level where 1 or 2 miles an hour makes a much bigger difference. And again, credit where credit's due. He's been much better his last couple starts. Looking around all of baseball, like I enjoy doing on Friday, to kind of look at what the weekend matchups bring to us. Diamondbacks Phillies this weekend in Philadelphia. I think it was Nationals yesterday. I was watching the Phillies game yesterday and couldn't remember who they were playing. I had to have something on the TV. Mariners, Rangers, Dodgers, Braves this weekend. A few of your top matchups going on in baseball today. So, and this weekend, a few of those to look at. Any of those jumping out at you? What you're seeing? I'm curious to see when we talk about a series between two teams that have something to prove. You look at that Royals and Orioles series, right? It's in Baltimore. Kansas City's played better lately. Baltimore has not. I mean, this is a team, when you look at the AL East, we knew everyone in the AL East was going to be pretty good. You still thought the Orioles would be probably if not the best team, right up there. Even though they, again, didn't go out and get the quote unquote ace that they needed at the top of the rotation. And then with Grayson Rodriguez being out still, and now he's on the 60-day DL or IL. So he's not coming back anytime soon. It's been a rough start for the Orioles, and they have not been nearly the team they thought they should be. And now they've got a Kansas City team coming in there. I mean, if they lose a couple games to Kansas City, I mean, they're 12-18 right now. I mean, they lose 2 out of 3 and you're 13-20. And all of a sudden, that's a really big deficit to try to overcome in a division where the Yankees are good, the Red Sox are better, the Jays have played okay. Tampa Bay is going to be Tampa Bay, right? They're going to be a solid team. It's tough. So we're looking at series that interest me, intrigue me. That's certainly one of them. I wish I could find the tweet. I saw one yesterday that just kind of laid out all of the numbers of the homegrown core of Orioles that are out there and just how much they're struggling this year. Like it's the same core that last year you looked at and you said, this is a possible World Series contender. This is one of the top teams in the AL.
And they've gone out there this season and they've messed the bed to start the year. A lot of these guys.
Yeah. Adley Rutschman's his OPS is under 700. Gunnar Henderson's a guy that a lot of people picked to win. Well, second place in the MVP after Aaron Judge, because ain't nobody taking that away from him.
Is Aaron Judge going to start getting the like the Jokic treatment to where he in the NBA where
second place is the
like you look at that and you go, okay, Jokic is like you've done it again. Okay, third year in a row, we're going to give it this.
And you've been better this year than you have been in your historically great years.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's getting to that point at his start this season.
I don't know. His start this year is one of those where you just still have to give it to him. Yeah.
It's been unreal. But yeah, I mean the Orioles have struggled. I think the Orioles are kind of one of those teams. You looked at them a couple years ago and you said, this is going to be a great team for the next decade. And they didn't go out and try to capitalize on the team when they had a chance.
Yeah.
They traded for Corbin Burns. They let him go. They offered him a decent amount of money, but they didn't keep him there like they could have at some point. They didn't go out and sign people that that the Orioles fans wanted them to. And now all of a sudden it's looking like that window. It's kind of like, in a way, the Cubs, when, in 15, they went to the NLCS, in 16, they won the World Series. And you're like, this is going to be the team to beat for the next 6 or 7 years. And then things happen, it falls off, but the Cubs at least got a World Series, right? They had a couple of good Octobers in a row. The Orioles haven't had that.
But now NLCS too. And they were NLCS in 15, and then World Series in 16. Yeah. And that's the Orioles. Have they won a series?
They haven't advanced.
Okay, there you go.
That's right. Yeah. So they won one series in the postseason, which is not. I mean,
no.
Used to you win one series and you're in the World Series, and that's not the case anymore. Now you got to go through a longer process, and they haven't done that. And it's not. I'm not saying that the Orioles window is closed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not as open as they thought it would be, and there's some internal blame to be laid out there, and it's not just Adley and Gunnar that are struggling.
Before we go here, I know this is kind of putting you on the spot, but I know that you have spent many years down at Busch Stadium. Walt Jocketty passed away last weekend. Any run-ins, any talks with him over the years in your time at Busch?
Not necessarily one-on-one, but he's a guy that you looked at, and the word when I think of Jocketty, the word architect comes to mind, because he didn't just go piece by piece. Let's get this one little thing and hope everything else works. I mean, he really built that franchise, that organization into a system, an organization that could sustain success. And I think that his time here wasn't the end. I think that he probably deserved for the success that he had and for what he did. But I hope that as time goes on, he gets more credit for being the person and the architect, the baseball architect that he was. Because the Cardinals, what they have been over the past couple of decades, they really owe just a ton of that credit to Jocketty.
Yeah, when you actually look at all of the people that he brought in, all the players that he brought in,
and the coaches and all these
see that
supports,
list. It's something else for that. So a lot of great tributes on our YouTube page and on Sports Hub STL about the former GM of the Cardinals, Walt Jocketty. You can go and read most of those on there right now. Cardinals and Mets, 7:15 tonight. Lots of good giveaways this weekend too. Down there, they have. Outside of having one of the most fun teams to watch in baseball this weekend, you also have a lot of other giveaways there too. And I think it's also a lot of fun when you're in a stadium like that. And when you're watching, like if you're watching the Cardinal game tonight, if you're flipping back and forth for some reason and you're watching the Cardinal game and you start hearing the crowd cheering for no reason,
right?
It's one of those cases where it's like, oh, better look and see if the Blues just scored type of thing. I always like those environments when both teams are playing at the same time. It takes me back to the 2019 season when they would do that, and you would hear everybody, everyone starts grabbing their phones, and you're like, oh, something must have just happened.
To build. yeah.
So that's always a fun time to be there. If you're not one of the 18,000 that has tickets to the Blues game tonight, they get a cheap seat and at least be
It's
down
not
in the
that-
atmosphere down in
Honestly,
St.
it's
Louis.
not that far away. A couple blocks away. It feels like you're right on top of each other.
Yeah, and we will have post-game shows for all of those right here on Sports Hub STL, Battlehawks, Cardinals, and Blues. So keep those notifications on, like and subscribe to us here on Sports Hub STL on our YouTube page, and keep the alerts on whenever we send stuff out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you might find us. We are we're everywhere here on Sports Hub STL. All of our content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. He is Ryan Fagan. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been another edition of Cards Hub 365, powered by Gray Bar. Talk to you later.